the tradition of you being here for the holidays and the quarterback challenge, the story about you working for a small radio station in a southern town.
That's right. That's right. And I had told this story only privately.
It's the best story I've ever heard.
And it was Christmas about 10 or 12 years ago, and I come out with my little story planned, and you said, give me a gift. And I said, what is it? Tell me this story about you and the Lone Ranger. And I had never told it publicly. So I worked for a small radio station. It was actually big in the area, Big Ways, it was called, W-A-Y-S. And we would open the car dealerships. And back then, I was one of the few white guys with an afro. I had the big, giant afro. And we would open the car dealership. And so a guy named Pickle Moore, we have a picture, by the way, of Pickle Moore with the Lone Ranger. This picture's never been shown before. Yeah. That's Pickle, that's the Lone Ranger, and that's the car dealership. That's a used Dodge truck.
There's the Lone Ranger. Clearly a sense of humor. Right.
Right, that's Pickle Moore. His daughter sent that to us, so I want to thank her. I know her name is Sweet Relish. I don't know what her last name is. So I go to the thing, and I'm talking and doing the remote and come down and get an oil change and buy a truck and the whole thing. And the Lone Ranger is there, and the kids are coming, and he's got the guns and everything else. My friend Mike Martin, who's in the record industry, he comes to visit me, and he's got the long, long hair and the big stacked heels and the tight jeans like a Bay City roller. And so he gets me, and we go out to the dumpster, and we begin to get herbed up. We become medicinally enhanced as the performance.
We only hear that phrase "herbed up" once a year.
Once a year.
Once a year. We all look forward to herbed up.
Herbed up once a year.
Yeah, it's a lovely tradition.
That's right. So as I keep going back and forth, we're more and more herbal. So so we do it. We're there for hours, and it's time to leave, and no one comes to get Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger, and to take him back to the Red Carpet Inn on Moorhead Avenue. So we wait a while, and no one comes. The sales manager was drunk. I don't know what happened. Pickle Moore had left. I don't know what was going on. So I said, well, we'll take you back. And
Lone Ranger all dressed up, just as in the photo.
Just with the guns and the whole thing, and the mask. Never takes it off.
Yeah.
Never relaxes. Right. Nothing. So I have a 10-year-old Volvo, okay? And it's all beat up. And there's fast food crap in the back of it and everything else. And we put the Lone Ranger in. And Mike and I get in there. And all we're thinking is we can't act stoned. So we... And my hair is so big, and he's got so much hair, he can't see out of the front window because it's like Starsky and Hutch are in the front with it. And we are looking straight ahead. And we are so nervous, and we get in this traffic. It's not moving. No one is saying a word. It's dead silent in my Volvo. And this middle-aged guy in a Buick in the front of us doesn't like the traffic. He decides to back up, crashes into my car. I hear my headlight break. Oh. And we look around, and he drives away, and there's that pause that stoned people have before they react. And so we decide to chase the guy in my Volvo. The Volvo has 5 cylinders, right? So I get out of traffic, and we're chasing the Buick. We can't, and the Lone Ranger is in the back, completely stoic. I swear to God. So we catch up to the guy. We can see him, he's a middle-aged guy. We pull in front of him, right in front of Anderson Seafood Restaurant. I swear to God, it's all there. And Mike and I jump out, and he says, what are you guys doing? I said, you backed into my car, and you broke my headlight. He says, I did not. I said, yes, you did. He says, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to call the cops. He says, oh, really? Well, who do you think they're going to believe? You two hippie freaks or me? And the Lone Ranger gets out of the back of my car. I swear to God, he goes like this. They'll believe me, citizen. I swear to God. Thank you.
That's so good. Oh, man. That is so good. So
is an absolutely incredible story of you giving up your son for adoption. Now, why would you give up your child for adoption?
Obviously, I didn't want him.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And there we begin.
Yeah.
He wants me back now.
You know, you have 5 or 6 hit records, and you got to have the kid back.
But you're very young.
I was young, but you know what? I was so Catholic, and I was so frightened of having sex. It's so weird.
Okay.
I have, late in life, in my late 20s, I have sex, and the woman gets pregnant. It's hard to believe. And first time ever, here it is, right here. And we were not going to get married, and it was not where either one of us were going. And so this discussion ensues. Do we get married? Are we attached to each other forever? Is the right thing to do? And we both, luckily, I thought, came to the best decision, and it was heartbreaking for both of us. And these wonderful people, Larry and Kendra Harding, I didn't know them then, they adopt him. They name him my name.
Wow.
JT. They name him my name. Wow. And he is raised, and his best friends are the Pettingills, and my best friends in New Orleans are the Pettingills. And we were not with each other, didn't know each other, and yet this...
Parallel lives here.
His mother said to me after I met her, she said, meeting you has answered a lot of questions, because they're these big Michigan football people, and then they have, you know, this nut.
Jay mentioned your family in Detroit, loving family. What made you eventually want to find Jay? And by the way, how did you do it? How'd you go about finding him?
I started putting my baby picture on Twitter, and I kept saying, does anyone recognize me? No. I was just always curious. I wouldn't trade my Michigan upbringing or family for anything in the world, but I was just curious. And I met my biological mother, and she told me, your father's an actor, and he's on Cheers. So for about a week, I thought Ted Danson was my father. That's true. And then we met. She said, no, it's Jay Thomas. He was on the radio in LA for years. In my Hollywood apartment, on a giant billboard outside of the apartment, was a poster of Jay, as big as a building, Jay's head on a lady's body. Wow. And I looked up at it and I said, this is making a lot of sense. You know?
Yeah. Well, and you have quite a bit in common. You have written some songs, big hit songs. Kenny Chesney.
Yeah, he's written none.
Well, but in terms of you're both artists, do you think that you got that creative sort of gene from
Not
Dad?
the singing. I don't sing, and from the biological mother, I'm sure. But we have my other 2 sons. One's an artist. Jake and Sam. One's an artist.
There's 2 that he knows about.
The ones that and my daughter Cynthia, who's in Cleveland right now. But then my other son is very creative and all that. So we have that. And his silliness and his wanting to be out there and everything else. Yeah. And when we met, this is the other part of it. If he hadn't have been good for me and I hadn't have been good for him, we would have shaken hands and see you later. We knew we were going to be good for each other, and we embraced. Now, that sounds awful, but we both said it to each other. Had you not been okay, I wasn't going to hang with you. And I said, you know, that's the same.
He said if you had a purple mohawk and earrings in your nose, you wouldn't have been here.
Goodbye.
You laugh about it, we laugh all about it, but what was that moment like when you did meet each other? And this bond is obvious. What did that feel like to find your dad and click?
It's a great question. I don't think it hit me right away, but Jay's kind of like this long-lost fraternity brother. We have a wild time, and it's just been great. And Jay has been there for me in situations where I've really needed him, I have to be honest. So he's really been there for me, even though I've had a great family.
Well, I'll tell you something else. And, you know, this is, a love time and all that. His mom and dad became our friends, and I spoke at his dad's funeral, and then People Magazine and all picked it up. His mother, Kendra, just passed away 3 weeks ago. Very sad. And his brother, Lance. And now my wife and I are kind of, I would say, taking the place. But he was raised. I even said I was going to send my 2 kids to be raised by Larry and Kendra, you know. And he's been a wonderful brother. And I was sick last year for a while. He came and took care of me. The worst person to take care of you. And everybody left, and he and I said, you are the worst caretaker.
But he plays the guitar. sure. He couldn't be that bad. Come on.
A new musical you're both working on together, Somewhere with You, and JT, you
It's
brought
his
it.
musical.
It's
I know.
all right.
Somewhere with You is a song I wrote with Shane McAnally. That is a Kenny Chesney hit song, became a hit song for him. Somewhere with You is a musical. It's a love story.